Recently, on a trip down to the river, I watched a duck with all her little ducklings, and the river has a series of little weirs going down, and the duck was trying to get the ducklings to swim up the stream, up the weirs, teaching them to learn to swim against the flow of water. And so as they were trying to do this, one after another, it was quite amusing to see them swept back down again like a little piece of driftwood before paddling madly to get back up again and join the others. And eventually they made it up to the next level, and then they went for the next one, and so on. And as I stood there being quite amused by this sight, I felt God speak to me about the times that we're now headed into. And I felt he was saying it's now a time to swim against the current. And what I mean by that is, I felt he was showing me the fact that, the shaking of all things has been going on for a long time, but it's increasing. The fact that he has said in Hebrews that he wants to shake things, the heavens and the earth, and only those things that will remain are the things that cannot be shaken. And so I think what I'm trying to say is, it's a time to be looking different, and at times that means speaking differently, acting differently, behaving differently in so many different ways. And I think in previous times as churches we've tried to be culturally relevant and so on, but I feel as if he's saying it's no longer a time to be culturally relevant, but a time to be just culturally on turning it on its head and being counterculture, because the way culture's going, it is going to be shaken more and more and more, and we're no longer to be affected by our culture or allow the culture around us to kind of seep into us, but we're also seeing more and more blatant things that are, in effect, oppose the faith that we have. And so we must be seen to be making a stand. And that doesn't necessarily mean in big ways, but the way that we handle ourselves, the way we speak, the way we don't necessarily just accept a situation because it's a status quo, or the way we look at what we've been involved in. I mean, how do we handle ourselves, for instance, on social media? Do we allow the prevailing culture to catch us up, that culture of, everyone giving their viewpoint and it ending up sometimes in a big argument? Or do we stand back from that and say, no, I'm not going to enter into this. This is not what I'm about. And the way we interact with the people that we meet, do we just go along with their viewpoint, or are we able to say, well, there's another way of looking at this, and begin to present a different culture? And one of the things I've felt right through this pandemic is that we are meant to come out of this looking different. And so just as those little ducklings managed to learn to swim up against that current, we're those who have to learn to swim against a tide of things that is coming, that is simply not what we would believe in as Christians, or simply not the way we would behave as Christians. And the Bible says in Hebrews that we've been given a kingdom that cannot be shaken. And so where do we place ourselves? What do we hide ourselves in? Well, we hide ourselves in that cannot be shaken, so that as the shaking grows and continues, we're not shaken, because we're hidden with Christ in him, in his kingdom. And I think the other thing to say about this is we're not doing it alone. Just as all these little ducklings were part of this one family unit, so we are not trying to swim against a culture as individuals. It is as church communities that we are to be countercultural. It is as church communities that we can stand together and stand in that which cannot be shaken. So I just want to exhort you to consider the culture, and consider where you stand in various aspects of the culture, and consider as churches where perhaps your church culture has been trying to be relevant, where perhaps it's now time to look different. Thanks for listening.